Welcome to Your American Dream. I'm Anisha Jennings, and today I'm excited to welcome Vicki Wright Hamilton to the show. Vicki is the CEO and founder of VWH Consulting, a 7 times author, speaker, television host, and proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. With over 40 years of corporate executive experience in technology, she's built a remarkable multifaceted business spanning consulting for disruptive technology implementation, leadership transformation, the Victorious Skincare line, an educational game called Decisions, and her documentary, The Diary of Successful Black Single Mothers. As someone who has served as a caregiver for 26 years while building her empire, Vicki specializes in helping others see the unseen in transformation. Welcome, Vicki. Thank you so much for being on my show today.
No, the pleasure is mine, and thank you for having me, Anisha.
You're welcome. So please tell our listeners all about Vicki. I know I gave a brief introduction, but tell us, how you started your journey and you're here now, 7 times author. That's amazing. So tell us more about all of it.
Well, thank you so much. The Cliff Note view is that I got into technology because of my mom. She was working on her doctorate, and I did all of her. I'm telling my age. I did all of her key card entries for all of her data. Then I worked in as a proof operator, which is where you work on a machine to get your checks cleared. They have the dates and amounts on them going through college. So I knew I wanted to do technology. But what I didn't know is what I wanted to do, thing I wanted to do in technology.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started my career, everything from business analyst, PC analyst, coder, developer, those kind of things. And I said, which one of these am I really passionate about? What really helps me go forward? And the irony thing of it is that every job that I went to that I was asked for to move forward, I never looked for that job. I didn't say, okay, I'm going to go apply for this. I'm going to go apply for that. It just
Mm-hmm.
happened. And
Wow.
so a lot of times I was put in opportunities that I didn't have, I hadn't necessarily been there before, but they were growth opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think everybody needs to understand when they're building their career is, what type of person are you? I'm a creator. And so I
Mm-hmm.
like to build things. I like to create things from scratch, etc. And so because of that, every opportunity, the job didn't exist before, and I was able to create it. So
Wow.
that was one of the trends that actually happened throughout my career. And as that occurred and I began to move up the ranks and got into the executive level, it was one of those things where I wanted to be exposed to different things on the executive level. So I worked for a company that was a private owned company and had equity. So I could see
Mm.
what it was like to work for investors. I wanted to be on a board. I wanted to experience what it was like, in the boardroom and what that looked like. All of these experiences to help me put tools in my toolbox to get prepared, for the next move. Now,
Lovely.
when we got through downsizing, resizing, re-engineering, all the rest of that, my position was eliminated, and they decided to move some positions to move some of the organizations together. So what had been decentralized is now what was going to be centralized in essence.
Mm.
And so when that occurred, I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna go get me another corporate job. No problem. Go get me another corporate job. Well, corporate jobs weren't coming like that, right? It
Mm.
was like, okay, what am I gonna do? So I knew I had to start doing something to bring
Yeah.
income in. So I started as a consultant. I was working as a consultant. I was making money on projects. I was acting CIO in some places, that kind of thing, to just bring some income in. Well, then the next thing that happened was I had to end up take caregiving for my mom too. So I was
Mm-hmm.
caregiving for my brother-in-law for 26 years. So on top of that, and then I had my brother starting in 2014. But this was like 2019, and 2014. And so I was taking care of my mom. And so then, trying to, you talk about that situation, the bread, leaders that are having to deal work, but also be caregivers and make that happen. So I was going
Yes.
through that as a business owner. And the
Mm.
challenge is that, or the opportunity, it's not really a challenge. The opportunity is figuring out the way that
Mhm.
works for you to be able to manage both, recognizing what's within your control and what's not. And
Yes.
we all know that when you become a business owner, There's
Mm.
so much that happens up and down that's not
Yes,
within your control, but you have to plan
absolutely.
for. You don't have the safety net. And so I
Yes.
think when people, go into being into their own business, they got to understand there's no safety net here.
Yeah.
Nobody pays in my okay, nobody gives you a vacation, nobody, all that stuff is on you. And
Yeah.
there's no safety net that if I got to take some time, I'm still going to get a paycheck, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things that you have to plan for as you're moving forward. And through that growth trajectory of my own business, I evolved with the economy and the market. So I
Lovely.
started as the technology doing consulting work and working for technical companies. What that led to was an opportunity to coach leaders. So I created a program called the Unstoppable You. And that's where I was helping leaders with transformation, whether it was growth and development, whether they wanted to do a career transition, whatever it may be, based upon those experiences. And then what I found out was as I was doing that, a lot of them wanted to start their own business. So I became
Mm.
a certified business coach. And so I help small businesses to double and triple their revenue and help them to move that within 45 minutes to understand what the basis is and what that looks like. So that's how I got my 3 pillars. Okay.
Lovely.
And then the market changes again, Anisha. And it's like, okay, what do I do if people don't buy services? How am I
Yes.
going to do this? So I knew I had to have products. So
Yes.
the way Victoria's Skin came about is that all these leaders, women leaders I was talking to were talking about, self-care and how do we have it? Well, when
Yes.
you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, what's the first thing you see?
Your face.
So I created a skincare line that was all about taking care of your face,
Yeah.
right? And what it looks like so you feel good. Because if you don't feel good, you can't lead anybody else. It has to
Yes,
be
indeed.
to start. So that's how
Absolutely.
skincare came about. Then as I was continuing to work with my third pillar, dealing with small businesses, as well as on the corporate side, I started seeing opportunities where making strategic decisions or having a guidance on how to make strategic decisions was missing. And I
Mm.
said, boy, it would be great to make it fun, make it interact. How can we build teams? How can we have conversations? How can we make this work? So I built Decisions, Your Path, Your Growth, so that they could have something to use. And it's really interesting because every time somebody's played the game, they all say, you're right. It's not about the game, it's about the conversation. And
Yes.
they start talking about everything that happens and the dynamics that happen. It just creates a totally different environment. And that's the
Mhm.
intent, right?
Right.
Is to have that conversation and to discuss those things as you move forward. So
Yes.
that's how my trajectory got started. That's what happened. As far as books go, from the time I was in corporate till now, I was either asked to write anthology books. I published my own book, Game Phase. I also published a book to go along with the documentary of Diary of Successful Black Women. I
Hmm.
created a book with that. Now, the Diary of Successful Black Women documentary is just my community of love. It's not like it's a
Mm.
business thing. It was my community of love. I work a lot with single moms, and they had a lot of stories. And I was like, some way we got to tell these stories to give other single moms hope. So the
Yes.
whole intent of the documentary was to give them hope and let them know you're not alone and you can find solutions out there.
Perfect. Yes. Similar to what I'm doing with the podcast is building this community of immigrant women to know they are not alone. Wow. Just wow. I love how you saw each challenge as an opportunity and turned it into something, amazing. A classic example of turning lime into lemonade, right?
That's
Lemons
exactly
into
right.
lemonade.
That's right.
Perfect. So there's a lot to unpack here. Let's go back to when you started your career and, when you started the caregiving. What was that like? Like, initially when you knew this was a responsibility for you and you had to balance everything. How did you manage all of it? And what would be your advice to other caregivers right now?
Okay. So I'm going to give you advice from things that I learned and I would have done differently, but
Hmm.
I'll tell you what I did during that time. When I knew that I was going to have to be a caregiver and the kind of care that my mom was going to need and what I had to do, I knew I had to have help, but I knew that I couldn't afford help, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't
Yeah.
afford a lot of it. So what I did was give up a lot of my own time that I didn't have to pay for, but I
Hmm.
managed it. So it was like, okay, I got to work from these hours, and it wasn't full time, so I
Yeah.
would get help during that time period. And then I would go and work, give my time in the evenings. And I'm going to tell you, The thing that I learned from getting caregivers is that when you find independent caregivers, you can barter.
Okay.
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 When you go through an agency, they gonna charge you an arm and a leg. There is no
Mm.
opportunity. It just is what it is. So some of these women who are caregiving that are older, it's like, okay, I'll do caregiving for you for so many hours. I need X from you to help me with this, or I need
Yeah.
X from you to help me with that. So some of the pay was in me doing leadership coaching or coaching to help them or somebody in their family. Their child's getting ready to go to school. They need a career. They need a development. So I did
Wow.
some of that too. The other thing is that it's very important to follow your calendar of time. You
Yes.
can't deviate. And the other thing is you got to be comfortable saying no,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not going to be able to do it all. You just can't do it all. And so it's about prioritization. So when mama had doctor's appointments, I knew, okay, my time is blocked here. I can't do anything. I got to do doctors. I got to be totally focused in what
Yeah.
I'm doing so that I could give that time. And then I may have to do time in the evening. I will say that takes a lot of energy. It does.
Yeah.
I don't care how you manage it or what you do. The time and the effort is unbelievable. And
Mm.
caregiving has a lot of emotional things that go along with it at the same time.
Right.
And it's things you try to avoid, but being a human, you go through it. And that
Yeah.
emotional challenge has an impact on you.
Yes.
And you don't want it to impact your health. So here's the things that I would tell them. Number one, please take building your time, whether it's 30 minutes a week, an hour a week, something that you know is me. It's my time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have to have it to recharge because you got to take care of yourself. I didn't do that.
Mm.
And I paid a price in some ways by not doing that because it can affect your health. It can affect your ability to do the next thing where you're trying to do something and you're trying to implement it and you don't do as well. So
Right.
please take time for yourself. I don't care if it's an hour a week, but you got to have something you can look forward to. That's
Mm-hmm.
me. Like
Right.
I'm not gonna be bothered by anybody. This is me to do what I want to do. Right.
Yeah.
Whatever makes me joyful and brings me a
Right.
smile. The second thing I will tell you when you are doing caregiving and you're in that sandwich situation is, like I said, whatever's on the calendar, you got to block it. You got to follow it. And I mean, you got to manage your time. Every second is a dollar,
Yes.
right? You have to
Yes.
manage your time extremely well so that you're able to accomplish what you need to do. The third thing is that whatever resources that you have that you can utilize, you want to maximize as long as you can for whatever time period you need, because you're going to have breaks. Whether
Right.
you work or not, you're going to have breaks. There's going to be times that you need to do something. So you may need help. You may need somebody to come. So the importance of having that ability to have funding is important. And
Mm-hmm.
so I will be very transparent with you. I took care of my brother, I took care of my mom, took care of my brother-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And through it all, I didn't anticipate, I had a great retirement, all that. And through it all, I didn't anticipate having to do this. But you
Right.
know what? I honor thy mother and thy father. I lost every dime of my investment, right?
Mm.
I needed that investment to keep things going. I needed that
Right.
investment to take care of her. And to me, there is no dollar sign on health, especially when it's your parents. And there is no dollar sign in terms of what you're willing to give up to do. I know that it was going to be replaced. Something's going
Right.
to give, something's going to happen. I have a very strong faith. So my faith was the foundation of
Amen.
all the things that I did. But yes, I lost all my investment because I didn't have that fund.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought about that, as well. And then the fourth thing I would tell your listeners is it's important that when you are getting ready to start caregiving, get all the information you need from that person at the beginning. Don't
Right.
wait. So make sure that you know all accounts, what's happening, who's doing what, their last wishes. You want to know if they have a living
Mm.
will. You want to know if you're gonna all of those things are critical because it will give you less stress as you go along, because then when something happens, you're prepared. So those
Yes.
are the four things I would tell anybody that's having to do in terms of caregiving.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for pointing that out, because a lot of people struggle talking about, like when they do pass what is supposed to happen. And then sometimes, if you don't have a plan, the people you leave behind have so much chaos and stress and anxiety. So it is so important to talk about these things. And yes, I have a strong faith as well. And it's amazing to connect with the fellow believers. So I have to ask, when you were in that situation of, caregiving, and you felt like you're at the bottom of it, and you did say, honor your father and your mother, how did your faith strengthen you? Like, what was it that you kept saying or praying or doing? Do you have any verses that like stood with you, that are in your heart, that you would pass on for encouragement to others?
Well, it's interesting. I think my thought process through it all was God give me strength
Mm,
to carry through the tasks that you have given me to do and give me the emotional stability to be
mhm.
able to handle it.
Amen.
Right. And I think that every day I would get up and I would say, thank you, Lord, for the grace yesterday. Thank you for allowing me to get up to face another day. And then thank you for letting my mom be here this morning. Being
Amen.
able to go in and say good morning. That's great. I had my mom and
Right.
my dad eventually. So, I mean, and my mom was in St. Louis and she wanted to move to it. I had her come to Atlanta because I didn't like the care she was getting. She came
Mm,
here, she always wanted to live in Atlanta. She did a 360 turnaround, did really, really well. And they were like,
wow.
we can take her away, right? So she did really well during some of those time periods. And then, as she got older, things changed. And then during that time, my dad was like, look, I can't come back and visit back and forth. I'm coming to Atlanta to
Mhm.
be with you all. So I ended up with both of them.
Nice.
And my mom died in my house. So I was with both of them, prior. But anyway, the bottom line is that I really made sure that every day I said what I'm grateful for, and I prayed for the strength, and I prayed for the emotional stability, and then I thanked them for allowing me to be able to say good morning again.
Right.
And when it got rough, I was like, Lord, please take the wheel. Help me through this. Give me the strength to deal. I want
Amen.
to do your will, not mine. I
Right.
want to do it your way, not mine. So guide me and lead me. Help me. Show me what it is I'm supposed to do. If I'm going wrong, redirect me. And so I will tell you that through this entire time, I always have conversations with God, so that's nothing new. But I think the amount of conversations I had, he was probably like, okay, Vicki,
Hey.
okay, Vicki, I know my line is never busy, but boy, you own it. You are on it. But it helped me to get through and survive.
Yes, amen. Amen indeed. So, another question I have for you about the job situation is, when the market kept changing and you had to, navigate that, there are a lot of people who I know were affected during COVID and lost their jobs, and, have lost their job probably every year, or have not been able to get a job and are struggling. What would your advice be to them?
Well, I will tell you the best thing you can do while you're unemployed is to what I call increase the tools in your toolbox.
Hmm.
It's getting upskilling, doing whatever you need to do. And it's just like now when people get unemployed, they're now going to get certified in AI because they almost can get guaranteed to get a job somewhere doing AI, right?
Right.
So you have to be able to think about where you are, where your growth opportunities and what you can do. Now, the other thing is I have a firm belief that when it comes into looking for job opportunities, we know it's not what you know, but who you know. And I
Right.
think the other thing is that your ability to stay connected, your ability to contact others, your ability to, when you find a job, it's not just about I found a job listing because
Right.
they're going to get 1,000 apps. It's about who's connected that's going to help me. How can I give myself that advantage, if you will, to
Yeah.
move up the ladder so I can try to get an opportunity. But the reality is we have so many people unemployed that
Yeah.
there's so many people going for the right job. So my philosophy is you plant your seeds everywhere. The only seed that's going to grow is the plant that God intended for you to have.
Amen. Yes,
And
indeed.
so because of that, I believe that you upskill yourself, you continue to apply, but don't just apply. You're just a social security number. It
Hmm.
requires the ability to have connected or somebody who's on the inside who can speak for you,
Right. Right.
somebody who can advocate for you. Because your ideas, I got to make sure it gets in front of somebody. not just through the system. The system has quantity levels. We're going to take the first 100. We're not taking anymore. You didn't make the
Right.
first 100, you didn't get cut out. So I think there's lots of things you have to do. And if you come to the table and they have other resumes, but you are coming to the table through a contact that's a good friend of the person, they're going to look at that resume, right?
Right.
It's how relationships work.
Right.
So it's a hard, struggling thing. The other thing is that I will say that the day that you, and you should do this all along anyway, but we don't all do this all year long when we're looking at our budgets and our finances.
Right.
But the day that you know that you're going to lose your job, you need to go through your budget, and everything that is optional, you get rid of. Everything's not a required to eat, sleep, drink, put clothes on, except you get rid of.
Yeah.
You know that I need to save this money because I don't know how long this trajectory is going to be. And I
Right.
just want to be prepared. And then you begin to think about how you spend money going forward. Is this
Right.
a requirement or a preference? Is it a requirement or a want? What does that look like? And if it's a requirement, what am I getting out of it? Why do I
Mhm.
think it's a requirement? And then if it's not, it's absolutely a want. Because sometimes we'll say, I got to go get my nails done. Was that really a requirement? It's a requirement. I got to look good. I got to have my nails done. But guess what? If you don't have the money to do your nails, to go and get them done, guess what you need to do is learn how to do them yourself.
Yes.
Not to get rid of that cost. But I'm just saying, there's so many things that when we go through life and we look at our budgets and what we're doing and how we're spending money, it's so critical that we
Right.
think about those things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now we'll get into your corporate career that you had before you started consulting. So, what patterns did you see in organizations that were struggling with digital acceleration?
So I think I'm going to start from the strategy perspective and then the execution perspective. From a strategy perspective, I think people latch on to the high level, what's working, how it's working, etc. And I need to jump on that bandwagon. Okay, so and I'm going to use AI as an example in a minute. That's one thing. The
Mhm.
other thing is they don't think about the execution of what they're doing, how to do it, and the impact. So what happens is the people who do the work, not the organizations, they're not kept in the loop, aware, and the process is not there from a change management perspective. That then, when they're forced to do it, the adoption is low. People
Mm.
don't understand. It takes more effort. It takes more time. So what I began to do was work with the leaders. So I'm gonna use AI. I work with leaders. We were talking about disruptive technology AI. Before it
Right.
was RPA, it was all kinds, but right now it's AI. So when you talk about AI, what is the number one thing that everybody's trying to think AI is going to do? Save positions. You
Right.
don't do AI and eliminate a role, right? Because what you have to do is look at the workflow of what that's doing. Because AI can only provide so much. They're not the interface to a person. So if
Right.
it requires an interface, if it requires the thought that goes into taking the information, then you need an individual. Don't eliminate the role. And then the
Mhm.
second thing is, so you got to think through that. But somebody has to ask the right questions.
Right.
Somebody has to be able to go in from that strategic level and say, we can't do this on an initiative. We're just going to eliminate roles. We just can't do that. That's not what
Right.
this is about. It's really about being a tool of an agent to support us, to help us, to give us more information quicker, faster, easier, but it is not necessarily a replacement. Now,
Mhm.
are there tasks that are routine, except that you could automate and there's no issue? Absolutely. I won't say that's not the case, but
Right.
you don't just go in and just say, I'm doing a cost cutting, go do AI. And the second thing is that once you do it, how are you going to ensure that everybody on the team understands it, knows what they need to do? So what skill sets do they have? What don't they have? How are we
Right.
going to enable that? And then when we do it, well, how are we going to communicate to them so that the change will actually give you the ROI you want?
Right.
Because even if you're doing a automation, using AI with an automation of intelligence, there's a lot of automation tools out there. That's the
Yes.
other thing. You don't have to have AI to do automation. So there's a
Yes.
lot of automation tools out there and helping them to understand, that difference. But where you can use AI and implement it, you truly want to make sure that you are prepared on the other end. Otherwise, you're spending the money to do this. You're executing what you need to do, but then you get no results,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
There are a number of companies that used AI, deployed it, and then they had to redo it.
Oh,
They had to
wow.
come back and undo it because AI didn't do exactly everything they thought it was going to do because
Right.
they had not thought through the workflow of what actually happens and what AI is capable of, what it's not capable of, at what points it would be beneficial in those.
Yes, that makes sense. Perfect. Very well said. So, when you started your coaching business, what made you like, what was your initial strategy? Did you think about it? Oh, I got a coach, or were you just, led to it where you said, okay, this is what I enjoy doing and I see myself as a coach? How did you feel like, okay, this is where I want to be, sort of?
Well, first of all, I believe every last one of us have a gift and a talent that we can share. So any gift and talent that you can share allows you to coach others in that gift and talent. Okay,
Right.
number one. Number two, the reason I saw the opportunity, as I mentioned, was because when I got into these organizations and outside organizations, leaders were like, I need to get this, I need to get that, I need help with this. And I was like, well, I need to create a program that's going
Mm,
to address that. Okay. So that's how I saw the opportunity and I leveraged it. But I also know that as you're doing that, and I knew it could be a feeder from, the companies that I was working with, as well as, the people that they knew and others, et cetera. And the word just grows.
right.
So I started in that vein to be able to address the needs of those individuals. Right.
Right.
So when I say, how did I see myself as a coach? The bottom line is experience gives you wisdom. Everybody has wisdom. I don't care
Mm,
if you've been in. I don't care if you've been in business 10 years. You got more wisdom than somebody's been in 2 years, right? Because
right.
you've lived it, had it, you've experienced it. So you
Yes.
got a lot of years of wisdom. So what do you do with that wisdom? How do you share it? How do you
Right.
help others to grow and develop, and not to step in the same holes you stepped in,
Right.
not to do some of the things you did, but that they can make better choices and decisions to grow and develop, right?
Right. Right.
So that's when I knew that all of the challenges I had been through, that I was able to overcome, all of the obstacles that were in the way, the things that I was presented with, how do you deal with them, etc. I knew then that I had something to offer. I could give information to someone. And the fact that I was developing this Unstoppable You program for the leaders really meant that my intent is to let you know you can't be stopped. You can do
Right.
anything you want to do, and we can get you there to where you want to be. And so all you have to do is decide, I'm willing to dedicate what it takes to get there, and I'm willing
Right.
to put the work in, but you can do anything you want to do.
Right, right. Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that experience. So, how do you help small business CEOs increase revenue without massive marketing spend?
So I am a certified profit coach, and I am very proud of that because the program is one that truly gives you, as a coach, the insides of what it takes to humanize and to get results,
Mm-hmm.
and repeatable systems and repeatable processes that have been proven. So when I sit down with the business owner, I do have a process so that I follow within this methodology. And the process allows me the ability to accelerate what they're doing, to ensure that they can get repeatable processes in place, repeatable outcomes in place that's predictable. And that's
Right,
the key word, predictable. So there are certain things that we need to do to be able to predict things and make things happen within our business. There's certain things that we need to do in terms of good habits, operations, all kinds of things. So when you go from everything of, I'm a startup, to I've been in business, I'm having challenges, I need more money. How do I
right,
get to cost faster? What does that look like? How do I build those strategies? All the way to, I'm ready to sell my business. Each one of them takes a different entity and a different lens. So
right,
I work with them to truly go through that and not have to spend a lot of money in marketing, but more or less do the things in their marketing themselves to be the
right,
marketer. They are the
right,
marketer, if you will. They represent that, as opposed to having to spend a lot of dollars to.
right. Makes sense. You are your brand,
Right,
basically.
right. And it doesn't mean that you're not gonna spend any marketing dollars. Everybody has a marketing budget, but
Right,
that's why I say additional massive marketing, because we should be able to leverage that budget appropriately, but and also inside that leverage your knowledge and information as the marketer, to be able, and that's just being the knowledger, right? Sharing the
right.
knowledge, but being that person to be able to enable other companies. to move
Makes
forward.
sense. Makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. So, what legacy do you hope to leave through your diverse body of work?
So, when I decided to do this, and as things were progressing and I was having to evolve, I really had to sit down and ask myself why. It was to survive, right? And I needed to work, but why? What is my why? Well, my entire why in my life is my family. That is my
Right.
why. And I was thinking about what can I do to support my family when I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I built this for generational wealth so I could pass it on, right?
Lovely.
Now, if it gets to the point that down the road they decide, you know what, mom, I'm not really interested, I don't want to do it, then I'll sell it. But the intent is to really leave it for generational wealth. I want to be
Yes.
able to give them something that has been started, has years of longevity that they can move forward. And in
Right.
fact, my daughter-in-law is my office manager and works with me very closely. But it's
Lovely.
helping her to learn what's going on so that as things happen, there's somebody in the family who's done it directly, who's been involved. My kids get involved in certain pieces, but they don't know the whole spectrum of what I'm doing. But I'm
Hmm.
really trying to work towards leaving the business to them for generational wealth.
That's lovely. That's amazing work. So, with all your experience and all your exposure that you've had in different aspects of your life, what is like 2 or 3 things that stand out to you as pieces of advice that you would give someone who is a woman of color or an immigrant woman entrepreneur or anybody in general, any business owner who is starting off? What would be your advice?
Number one, things that you have as a vision and the things that you want to execute in a certain time period might not be the time that your business is ready to go.
Mm,
You're not prepared. You're not there. So we have to really understand where we are in that trajectory. Critically important because we'll put down plans and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And what we're trying to do, we're not really ready for to be able to do. So I think
right.
it's always important to make sure that you can match that. You know what's really required to what you're doing. Second thing is do not start a business if you do not have funding or money in the side that may take you 9 months to get the first contract,
Mm,
period. Because when you base it on the fact that I don't have any money, now that money may be, seed money, might be grants you get. I don't care, but you got to have something
mhm.
because it takes money. You make money by spending money. And I never
Right.
understood how much that really meant, but it is so true. You make money by spending money. And if you don't have money to spend, it's harder to make even more money. Number one.
Yes.
Number two is that you will find yourself in very stressful situations. You're going to get to a point and say, did I make the right decision?
Right.
Should I be doing this business? I'm not making money. We're not getting this. We're not getting that. And you begin to question yourself. And it's
Right.
not about you. It's about the timing and the process. That's why you want to maximize the way in which you do it so you can
Mhm.
minimize the time it's going to take to get it done.
Right.
So that's why having the right people around you that have done it and been there to coach you is important because
Right.
they can help you get through steps quicker and help you to get ready and because of the experience that they've had and things that they've done moving forward. So I think
Right.
it's critically important to understand that, right? As you move forward. So it's,
Yes.
got to definitely have the money there. It just
Yes.
unfortunately that's the way it is.
Yes.
So what I tell women that are working and they want to start their own business, as I say, just start an account. And if it's not but $50 a week, whatever it is, but start putting
Right.
something aside, and that money is going to be your seed money to get going.
Mm.
You can move forward. The third thing that I would tell business owners and that are moving forward, when DE&I was big, I had a lot of my contracts through DE&I as a supplier, as a diverse supplier. Now that the government has said we don't have it anymore, people have pulled funding, and they don't necessarily have that program, or they've turned their DE&I to a all-inclusive program internally, not
Mm.
what they're necessarily getting vendors from, etc. So the opportunity to make the kind of money has changed. So
Right.
guess what? I have to change. And this
Right.
is the other thing. You must stay in tune with the market, the times, and understand what researchers are saying about the future so you can get prepared.
Right.
Because the last thing you want is for something to is to catch you off guard.
Right.
So reading is critical, right?
Right.
Staying on top of whatever industry you're going into, the things that are happening, because what you don't want is that you get ready to go get that first client and they go, well, it's been a year since you've been in this industry. You don't know about it. It's changed so much, right? You
Mm,
want to be able to show these are the things I've done to keep my skill sets up, my knowledge up, my experience up. This is what I'm doing as well. And
right.
that's why people who are starting businesses, some of them have a small consulting project that they're doing or something that they're doing to the side that's going to help them keep their skills up while they're still selling, but it's a minimum amount of time. It might be like, I'll make it up. It might be 15 hours a week or something like that, so that you can devote the rest of the time to building your business. But you do have something that says, I can say that I've kept my skill sets up. I've done this, I've done that, so that you're not leaving yourself totally exposed.
Right. Makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information. It was a pleasure having you on my show today. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience and knowledge. I totally appreciate it.
Thank you, Anisha, for having me, and the honor is all mine.
Thank you. As we conclude our inspiring conversation with Dr. Vicky, remember that true transformation happens when preparation meets opportunity and vision meets action. If you're ready to showcase your multifaceted business empire through a website that captures all dimensions of your work, I'd love to help create that comprehensive digital platform through custom Squarespace and WordPress websites. This is Anisha Jennings reminding you that sometimes our most victorious moments come from empowering others to see their own potential. Until next time.